Hey guys, welcome to objective number 7. This objective focuses on the use of spreadsheets to track the data from the assessments that you have created and taken in SchoolNet for benchmarks and objectives or standards. I know that's a mouthful, so I'm going to walk you through the process of actually doing this. So I will provide you with links in the presentation that you can access to 3 sample spreadsheets. The spreadsheets that have been generated are a social studies spreadsheet, a science spreadsheet, and a health science spreadsheet. So what you're going to do with those is customize them by simply, you'll see, plugging in your own standards or benchmarks and plugging in data for each of your students. So I'm just going to open the social studies one to show you the example. Okay, so this is what the spreadsheet generally looks like. I'll see if I can make that bigger for you. Okay, so at the bottom you'll notice there's a tab for each course. This has been updated to current Common Core standards. So the United States History 1 and 2 splits are in there if history teachers you would just like to use this spreadsheet as it is and insert your own standards. However, so let's just start out with world history. Here we have some of the essential standards for the world history course. On the right of each of those standards, you're going to see the opportunity to plug in test date, the class average, which is what you're going to chart for your data wall, date of retest for the class, if any at all, the new average that you have for the class, and then if you deem it necessary to take another, to provide the assessment again, then you can do so and record a third new average. The reason why these spreadsheets have the opportunity for an initial take and then 2 retests is because the district is also moving towards something called mastery grading. Basically what that is if you've heard of standards-based grading, it's very similar. With mastery grading, students must perform to a standard of at least 80% on the district level recommendation on each assessment to proceed with that objective. So for example, Mr. Scheweiler uses standards-based grading in his science classes, which is the same as mastery grading. So if he, in a week's unit, decides that he's going to teach to 3 of his standards, and those are his benchmarks, he ascribes at least an 80% benchmark to each of those before students can progress. So if a student makes a 60, they are not going to be punished for that 60 if they have the ability to retake the test. And that's the philosophy that the district is moving toward. So students can have the opportunity to retake a test usually no more than 2 times after the initial take. And if they can score the 80%, and it is recommended that you give them different forms so that they can't just use the process of elimination after each take and figure out what the right answer is without actually understanding the test. Then on that third take, if they've reached 80% proficiency, they're good and they can move on to the next objective because for all purposes, they've accomplished or met that objective. Okay. It's also a really good way to figure out what maybe your weaknesses are as a teacher and what you need to reteach in your curriculum, and is really one of the biggest benefits, I think, of the data walls and of the spreadsheets, because you can really analyze down to the question level with SchoolNet student responses and what the worst performances were, what the worst I'm sorry, that distracted me. What the worst performances were on what questions, what standards, and how your student performance lies, without ever actually having to pick up a pencil and grade a test yourself. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it and makes your job easier, and is really a great way to boost test scores. And then, as I mentioned, we have a science spreadsheet. Here we have physics is this tab, but at the bottom we have earth science, physical science, chemistry, and biology as well. For the first three standards under forces in motion, we have analyze the motion of objects, systems of forces, and analyze motion of objects based on principles of conservation, momentum, and energy. So, same principle applies. As you can see, the structure doesn't really change for the spreadsheets. Now, you will realize that this is not catered to the individual student. That is because, to simplify the process of collecting data for your data walls, SchoolNet will give you individual assessment data, as I've already mentioned 100 times. But in your spreadsheets, keeping track of the class average is really all you need to put on your wall, and SchoolNet will do that for you. That is all that the central office is really looking for, I think, at this point from your data. So as long as you can do that, you'll be good to go. Okay, and I think that pretty much covers how we use the spreadsheets. So I'm going to give you some time to customize those spreadsheets for your own classes and record some actual data that you're going to mock up, some hypothetical data to put into your spreadsheets for a sample class. And then we're on to the final objective.